The week beginning on the 24th of September 1911 was a very eventful one in European history. On the 25th, a French battleship exploded at anchor in the port city of Toulon, killing over 300 people. On the 27th, Sweden held its first parliamentary elections since introducing universal male suffrage. And on the 28th, Italy finally made good on several long-standing threats and sent a fleet of gunboats and armed zeppelins to Libya to formally wage war against the Ottoman Empire. More relevant to this story, and no less important to the history of Europe as a whole, on the 29th, a nature witch by the name of Frida Schultz came to Calais in France to have a business lunch with a fellow Valorian expat who had gotten in contact with a very interesting proposition. She arrived at the Côte d'Or bistro, gave her coat to the valet, and searched the crowd on the balcony until she saw her contact. Sitting at a table, watching the boats on the channel, was a middle-aged woman with a Gladstone bag, a black suit, and a single bright green eye. Those of you who have been closely following the history of the Kingmaker diamond will not need to be told this woman's name, but for the sake of those who may be less familiar...
Miss Culver? I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting. There was this dead cow on the side of the road, and the bus had to go...
Spare me, I don't care.
Oh, okay.
My ferry leaves at 3 o'clock, so since time is of the essence, I took the liberty of ordering for you. You're having the foie gras, and I ordered you a raspberry seltzer. They make it fresh here with real raspberries.
That's, fine, I suppose.
The foie gras. And the raw oysters with citrus gratin. Bon appetit, mesdames.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I have so been looking forward to this. I love raw oysters, but you just cannot get them back in Crystal City. Too far inland. Bon appetit.
Bon appetit. I'm glad they're good. I'm not a big seafood person, personally.
Delicious. Anyway, to the point. I need you to come to England with me.
You're kidding.
I don't kid, Miss Schultz. I'm about to make a very important proposal to the British government, but to prove the efficacy of my plan, I need someone who works in the twin mediums of time and space. You are the only nature mage I could find with both a background in portal conjuration and a general disdain for the current government.
Schultz had, 4 years ago, published an essay called On the Use of the Metaphysical Realms for Travel, the public reaction to which had been what forced her to flee across the border to France.
Sorry, the foie gras is a bit dry. I can't just drop what I'm doing to join you. And besides, I've tried to distance myself from the whole time-space manipulation thing since, you know...
Since you know what?
Nature mages all over the continent have been dropping like flies the past couple of years. Especially ones who work with space and time. Franz Jopling supposedly drowned, even though he minored in hydromancy. Guillaume Auberti conveniently killed himself right before his treatise on dimensional travel was going to print. And Francisco Oliveras, nobody knows. But they found his body back in March. He was flipped completely inside out.
Yes, it truly is a shame that someone would do that. All the better reason for you to join me in leaving the continent.
I think I might be...
Drink some more of your seltzer.
I'm so sorry. I think I've got a raspberry seed caught in my throat.
The ferry leaves in 5 minutes. I've given you a very simple choice, Miss Schultz. Join me in forging the new order, or be killed by the current one. I know which side I'd pick if I were you.
I can't go with you, but I think I can give you the names of some people who might be able to...
Ariadne's words ended up being darkly ironic, as unbeknownst to her, another fleshcrafter, currently in the kitchen disguised as a chef, had already made Frida Schultz's choice for her. He had done so with the help of a potion called Swift Arborea, which was normally used by farmers to accelerate seed germination.
You don't. Not before I get that information.
Before Schultz's digestive and respiratory systems were engulfed by the raspberry bush currently growing out of her, she managed to hand the piece of paper to Ariadne. The The paper had 3 names written on it: Marceau, Heigl, and Belafonte.
Just the names? No address, no contacts? That's it? You're not dying on me yet. Those socialists are going to have to try harder than that if they think they can stop Ariadne Culver from getting what she deserves.
Ferry to Dover, leaving in 5 minutes. Last one of the day. If you've got appointments to keep in England, you'd better get on this ferry.
Damn it all to hell! Well, thanks for nothing, Schultz. I suppose I have a boat to catch. Alone.
Maria, what the hell is this?
It's a cocktail. You know, one of those things you pay me to make.
Not like that, you don't. You can't serve that to customers. It's on fire.
It's still edible. Try it. I call it a St. Florian sling.
You are wasting materials. That's coming out of your paycheck.
One of the great unsung eccentrics of the Belle Epoque was a woman by the name of Maria Hafner, a Valorian national who moved to Zurich in 1904. She had been 20 at the time and looking for a fresh start after a few stints in prison and a short but disastrous career as a bare-knuckle boxer. Upon arriving in Switzerland, she was able to cultivate what would come to be her greatest talent, bartending. She never sought formal mage training despite having grown up in the VSR, but through her travels she picked up a plethora of minor artifice and nature spells, which allowed her to create cocktails that were decades, some even said centuries, ahead of her time.
No, I'm doing valuable research. A few tweaks and this will be perfect to add to the winter menu. Imagine this. You're a tourist. You've been out ice skating, you're freezing your nuts off. You come inside and see the bartender making a perfect warm-looking cocktail. It's spiced whiskey, aquafaba, and oil of lampwick newt around the rim. Bear with me, Mr. Baldinotti. I can handle this.
What do I keep telling you? That kind of creepy crawly hocus pocus might fly back where you're from, but not here. The Grand Botanical is a classy hotel for classy people. That seltzer's coming out of your pay, too. Clean this shit up before any customers come in.
You got it, Mr. Baldinotti. Stingy prick. No vision, no sense of whimsy.
In 1911, Maria was working behind the bar at Zurich's Grand Botanical Hotel, where on the 30th of September, a moderately damaged transit van arrived at the door carrying 3 moderately damaged people.
Jeez, it's so bright in here. Eisen, can I wear your goggles?
Aye, if it'll get you to stop complaining.
Telesphore, I thought you said you were taking us to get medical attention.
And I did. Do you have so little faith in me?
I just thought you meant, you know, a hospital?
Holzmann will be watching the hospitals. Besides, Maria owes us one.
That's new. Usually it's the other way around.
Oh, Eisen, you son of a bitch!
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Get the hell over here, old man!
Not too hard, though. I'm injured.
You are looking handsome as ever, Maria, my dear.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, that makes one of us. Here, take a napkin. You're bleeding. All of you. Don't drip on the floor, all right? It's hardwood. My manager will come back in here and bite my head off. One for you, and oh, hello, doe eyes. You're too pretty to be hanging around with these 2 lowlifes. What's your story?
Oh, Colette. Wait, let me start over.
Well, enchantée, Colette. Don't you worry. I know you've been through some shit you don't have to answer. Maria's gonna sort you out. 3 Prussian army doctors coming right up.
I think alcohol will just make me feel worse.
Not the way I fix it, honey. All right. One by one. Sound off. What the hell's wrong with you?
2 bullets in the left arm.
Bashed within an inch of my life by a pair of big bloody copper gauntlets.
Thrown off a motorcycle.
Fucking hell, aye. Thrown off a motorcycle as well.
Hit by lightning.
Hit by fucking lightning, but you should see the other cunt.
You actually shouldn't. Like, you really, really shouldn't.
So, extra strength for everyone then.
Yes?
The Prussian Army Doctor, which Maria invented in 1909, is a mix of absinthe, rosewater syrup, egg white, cream, fennel, star anise, and Riemerschmidt, shaken in an artificer-charmed cocktail shaker and served with a healing sigil tastefully placed into the foam using a stencil.
Drink up.
That's better. What's in this?
Healing sigils. Oh, and the shaker's made of enchanted steel from a surgeon's hacksaw. Great for aches, pains, and minor flesh wounds. Oh, it's a fantastic hangover cure, too. The boys are going to have to pay for theirs, but yours is on the house.
Oh, come on. Let's not forget, you owe me, by the way, after Lake Geneva.
What? That was 11 years ago.
Aye, but we're friends, aren't we?
Oh, all right. On the house for all 3 of you. Stop looking at me like that.
Ah, you're a saint. I'd stick you on a cross and shake your hand.
So, dare I ask what happened?
Perhaps it's best not to.
You staying overnight?
That's the idea. At least until I have a chance to repair the back doors on the van anyway. Then we're shipping off to Telsey.
Anywhere but back to the VSR, that's for damn sure.
Well, if you're planning on leaving, maybe stay out of Italy.
Hi. What's happening in Italy?
Didn't you hear? They're finally declaring war on the Ottomans. The troops landed in Tripoli yesterday.
Aye, but that's Tripoli. That's nowhere near us.
Yeah, for now. At least until Austria decides to get involved.
Austria? They can't fight sleep. They won't.
Oh, they're thinking about it. Don't you read the papers?
We were stuck in the Seltzer between the start of July and last week. We're not exactly on top of current events.
Hey, Maria, can I get another one of those cocktails?
They all had a few more cocktails, both magical and otherwise, and for a brief moment they were able to pretend they were an ordinary group of friends on an ordinary holiday, instead of 3 fugitives on the run. After a brief argument over whether or not they had enough money for separate rooms, which they did not, they booked themselves a night in the hotel.
That sniper's chances of survival were low, but not 0. And I don't think he saw Colette, but we can't rule it out.
I'm less concerned about that, and more concerned about the fact that he and Lando knew where to find us in the first place. And if Moret's told Holzmann our location, he can easily tell him that Colette is alive.
You think it was Moret's?
Aye, I'm not a betting man.
That's a lie, if ever I've heard one.
But I would put money on it. Not like there's anyone else from back home who knows where we are right now.
Excluding Nikita.
We've known each other since we were 10 years old. If she was going to betray me, she would have done it by now. Here, how's your arm?
Don't worry about me, I'm fine.
The kid really did a number on you, didn't he?
I won't hold it against him. It's actually kind of impressive that someone finally managed to shoot me.
Hey, Telsey.
What?
Matching bullet wounds.
Normal couples get wedding bands.
One of us should shoot Colette so she doesn't feel left out.
And you're always telling me I have a dark sense of humor.
If you even think about shooting me, I'll kill you.
Oh, calm down, Diamond Heed. I was only joking. Let's all focus on a good night's sleep, and tomorrow I'll sort the van out. Then we'll play it where it lands.
So you're saying there's no plan?
Sometimes that's the best plan.
Despite the relatively peaceful atmosphere, Eisen was the only member of the trio who found himself able to sleep through the night. At around 2 a.m., Telesphore was awoken by the sound of the balcony door opening and the smell of Happy Salamander brand tobacco, which was the type that Colette generally preferred to put in her cigarettes.
Trouble sleeping?
Oh my god, could you not? Whew, yeah, because both of you snore. Really loudly.
Pass me a match.
Okay.
It's a rather nice night out.
Maybe I should have gotten my own room. I'd probably sleep better. And if some other military assassin comes for me, they can just get it over with.
Don't be ridiculous.
Is it ridiculous? I'm the one they want. You guys just got dragged into this mess because of me.
Maybe that's true. But, truth be told, Eisen and I could have given you up to the authorities dozens of times over at this point. We could have washed our hands of it and moved on. But we didn't.
You heard what Maria was saying earlier. Italy's going to war. If that boils over, someone might try and attack the VSR. And if Holzmann was right...
He's not. Even if it was, I wouldn't do anything different. You know I care about you a great deal, Colette.
Really?
Like my own flesh and blood.
I don't think Eisen likes me. I think if you weren't here, he'd have kicked me to the curb.
That could not be further from the truth. Believe you me.
The city looks nice from here. It's a lot quieter than Crystal City. I wish we didn't have to leave.
Never once for excitement, as I always say.
I wish you'd stop saying that. I'm tired of excitement.
Imagine how I feel. I'm the one who has to drive the damn van.
Well, it's getting cold. I'm going inside.
Good night, Colette.
Can you give me a hug before I go to sleep? I think it might help.
All right, come here. Tell me when I'm squeezing too hard.
More. Okay, that's enough.
I think things will get better. We just have to ride out the storm for the time being.
Thanks. I think I needed to hear that.
Though it was what she needed to hear, it was unfortunately far from the truth.
6 of cups.
4 of wands.
2 of coins. Mandel, deal us in.
Yes, sir.
Though Klaus Holzmann was known to be a man who took his work very seriously, this was not to say his life was one completely without joy. In fact, his peers often said he took his leisure just as seriously as he did his duties as head of the Valorian army. He was well versed in all of the most popular card games of the era, but his favorite was a game called Hand of Glory, a trick-taking game similar to French tarot. Holzmann saw cards and board games as a way to keep his strategic mind sharp, and he often played them to pass the time while on international business. Usually, he would just be playing against Mandel, but on this particular trip to Germany, Mandel was joined by his wife Roxana, who had boarded their train at Frankfurt.
So, I assume you've seen the news about the armed Zeppelins headed for Tripoli? Can you believe the Italians came up with that before we did?
It boggles the mind, sir.
How embarrassing. Maybe it's a sign you should quit your job.
Roxy, come on.
Augie, you're ruthless. Go easy on me next time, alright?
You're not trying hard enough. I know for a fact you're quite good at cards. You're just pretending to be helpless to garner sympathy. It's the same trick she used to pull on me when we were first going out. Oh, August, I'm really no good at tennis. Can you come over here and show me to hold the racket again?
I'd have stopped doing it if you didn't fall for it every single time.
And if you'd stopped, I might not have married you.
I am earnestly terrible at this card game, though. I'm amazing at the rest, just not Hand of Glory. I'm starting to wish I'd taken more papercraft classes at school, because if I had, it'd be over for both of you. You probably cheat all the time, Commander. Admit it.
He could, but he doesn't.
Mrs. Mandel, if I cheated at every game I played, my life would get very boring very quickly.
You and I are very different people.
Next stop, Berlin Station. Have your tickets ready for Berlin. Thank you.
Shit. Be back in a bit, boys.
I think she only paid to go as far as Gotha. I missed her.
Sometimes I struggle to imagine why. Now that I have you alone, we can speak frankly. I know you withheld certain information from me regarding the Kingmaker.
Sir, I acted out of turn by letting Colette Geis go. I realize. And I apologize for that. But I had to think quickly in the moment, because I earnestly believe she is more used to us alive than she would have been dead.
I respect your judgment, and I think, in retrospect, Nox's proposal was completely out of line. But Mandel, you had ample opportunity to admit what you did to me. 4 months is plenty of time to give clarity on a snap decision like that.
It is, sir. I'm not denying that.
Good. Now the only thing I want to know is why. Because the way I see it, an action like that is either a sign of cowardice or subterfuge. Which one was it, Mandel?
Cowardice, sir.
The best I could have hoped for, but nonetheless disappointing. I'll see to it that you'll face the appropriate punishment when we return to the VSR.
Out of curiosity, how are we handling the Kingmaker case now?
It's no longer a military issue for the time being. The new Chief Inspector in Crystal City will be in charge of the investigation.
Berlin Station!
All right, onwards and upwards. Let's hope Tirpitz goes with the proposal.
The proposal in question was difficult to find concrete details on, as this particular meeting between Holzmann and Germany's Grand Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz was shrouded in secrecy until many years after the fact. It was in regards to the VSR's entente with Germany, more specifically the state of that entente, in the event of a stark change in leadership.
I haven't breathed a word of this to the Kaiser. I can't until the transition is final. If he got even a whiff of these plans, he'd be physically incapable of starting an international incident over it.
He's a man of action, at least. More than I can say for my own country's head of state. Rothbart is a weak-willed scrimshanker who can hardly decide what tie to wear without consulting the Poles first. Which is precisely why he will be retiring from politics by the year's end.
You promise to uphold your end of the Entente once you're in?
Without question, Admiral Tirpitz. As an artificer myself, I take great pride in my craft. With our help, Germany's next naval fleet will have no equal. And I can promise you something else on top of that my predecessor couldn't ever have dreamed of. These are the new range of prototype guns my men and I have been working on. They fuse the durability and efficiency of artificer-made firearms with the power and precision of Kersite energy weapons. We've had full-blooded and half-blooded Kersicians test them on the firing range, and they work, more or less. All there is now is to figure out how to make sure that an average human soldier would also be able to make use of them. Then we'll be ready to ship.
That's all well and good, Commander Holzmann, but I need a time frame.
Rothbart will be out by St. Martin's Day. As for the guns, there's really only one missing piece to the puzzle, as it were. And I'm confident I'll have it in the new year.
Elsewhere in Europe, the news of Italy's invasion of Tripoli had reached the British government. On the heels of the Agadir crisis and the ongoing naval arms race with Germany, Italy's declaration of war served as a sobering reality check to the British Home Office. Their policy of neutrality towards the rest of Europe would not last long. Sooner or later, they would be required to act. On the 1st of October, a clandestine meeting was organised between Home Secretary Winston Churchill, Foreign Secretary Sir Edward Grey, and the director of the newly formed MI6, Sir Mansfield George Cumming, who more often than not simply went by C.
We're supporting Italy in the sense that we will not be stopping them, but under no circumstances do we send troops. That's the order.
I think the most important question here is, what's Germany's reaction? We know Austria's considering invading Italy, but has Bethmann Hollweg said anything?
They're still too busy with Brigadier to form an opinion, I imagine. Forget about Germany for a minute. I think the ones we really might have to worry about are the Valorians.
With all due respects, Churchill, I think the VSR's biggest enemy is the VSR.
Not for long. Not if Holzmann has his way. Italy attacks the Ottomans call it Austria, Austria calls in Germany. And we all know how skittish the VSR are about alliances, but if their entente with Germany actually holds this time, there's nothing stopping their artificers from engineering something 1,000 times worse than armed zeppelins. Britain will be completely defenseless unless we act preemptively and reach out.
That's a good point, but how do we go about doing it? Ever since April, the Valorians have been even less communicative than normal.
Not all of them, Gray. Not all of them. Miss Culver, hopefully I didn't keep you waiting too long.
Oh, not in the slightest, Mr. Churchill. I'm more than happy to be here. The restraints on the wrists are a little much, but it's nothing I haven't experienced before.
Are the armed guards really necessary?
Absolutely. Gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to Ariadne Culver. She had an advisory position under the Valorian monarchy, and she's come to us with a very interesting proposal that I think you both ought to hear.
Thank you. My son has just been promoted to a very high position within the Valorian army, so I can tell you firsthand, despite all the resources left for them by our good neighbors, they don't have a clue what they're doing. They still haven't figured out how to use Kersite weapons, and even the best artificers on their payroll can't properly retro-engineer a death ray that was first used 100 years ago. Holzmann acts like he has the answers, but he's really just copying off a better student's homework. So, if you really want a tenable defense against Germany, you go to the source.
You mean the Kersite?
Eventually, but in the interim, I just need my hands for a moment. Churchill?
Let the lady open her bag.
Thank you. As I was saying, you have me. And this.
Ariadne opened the clasp on her Gladstone bag and produced a crystal unicorn, slightly chipped after being dropped out of the exploding arm brilliant, and blood-stained from being stored in the same bag as Ariadne's work tools.
Is that it? I thought you were bringing us a death ray.
No wonder the VSR's never been able to conquer any colonial territory.
I wasn't finished! He'll be fine. You'll be fine, right, Cumming?
Yes, ma'am.
What circle of hell did you pick her up from again, Churchill?
Give her a chance, Edward. After all, if you wrote off everyone who deserved to be institutionalized, you'd be writing off 2/3 of the cabinet.
I'm not an artificer. I can't build you a death ray. But what I do have is an irreversible fusion transmutation spell that can turn a regular soldier into a live grenade. I'll give you a demonstration. Can I borrow one of these guards?
To do what?
Nothing that can't be undone later. Now, shall I pick or shall I wait for a volunteer? Come now, boys, don't be shy. You'll do nicely. What's your name?
Harlow, Mum.
Harlow. Hold still for me, would you? I said hold still. Good boy. All right, gentlemen. We start with the raw materials for transmutation. Bone marrow for blood cell production, pink Kersite seagrass for glucose and protein, a pinch of copper sulfide as a catalyst.
Dear Lord,
Just wait and see what she does next.
You've seen her do this before?
And now, the fusion. Harlow, my dear, I'm going to take a bit of your blood. I promise it won't hurt. Well, maybe just a little, but you're a big, strong soldier. You can take it.
Yes, Mum.
Now, here is my favorite part. This organ has no function and can be placed anywhere I like. I think I'll put it here. At this point, I can also cast a second spell for stabilization, but for our purposes... See, there we go. It reverts back to crystal on its own, with no harm to the host. All right, Mr. Harlow, how are you feeling?
Fine, I think. Aside from the crystal unicorn horn sticking out of my chest.
Good. Now, the rest of you, stand well back. And Harlow, tell me about something you hate.
Anything?
Anything.
All right. I hate dogs. I had this kitten when I first moved into the flat I'm in now. It was the cutest thing. Orange with little white socks. I called him Bonbon, and he was my best friend. When he got a bit bigger, I started letting him roam around, but my neighbors have this big, dumb Staffordshire Terrier, and one day Bonbon got into the garden and this bloody dog killed him. So I went around to complain, of course, and they just said to me, "Well, what do you expect? Your cat came into our garden." Well, I'm sorry, but I can't stop him from doing that. Cats are curious by nature. Maybe you just have a poorly trained dog.
See? Isn't that better than a death ray? And you know what the best thing of all is? Unlike a traditional explosive, Harlow's reusable. The crystal is fueled by anger, which is hardly in short supply these days. Imagine the possibilities, gentlemen. It doesn't matter what kind of artillery the Kaiser's got when you have soldiers who can turn their own righteous hatred of the enemy into a weapon. If you want a tiebreaker against Germany, this is it.
Can I leave?
Of course. Give me a call if you want it taken out.
Even outside of wartime, this could make for highly effective crowd control. Certainly would have been handy to have around back in January.
My thoughts exactly. We enjoyed great peace with the help of the Arme Brilliant under the Valorian monarchy, but its biggest problem was it was stationary. With the hybrids, you can easily ship them to every corner of the empire. Send a few to Ireland, Hong Kong, India, Siam. The sky would truly be the limit.
And what do you want in exchange for this interesting proposition?
For now, full British citizenship for me and my son.
And where do we get enough crystal to make this project viable?
The care site. With the help of some sympathetic nature mages, we can start trying to open communication between your government and theirs. And there is at least one other crystal on Earth that I know of.
The Kingmaker Histories is a production of We Are Not Alive. This episode was written and audio engineered by Meg Molloy Tuten, with Foley design by Jam Wright, and executive production by Henry Galley and Ashley Craft. Our theme was written and performed by Professor Shy Guy. A full list of other music used can be found in the show notes, as can our social media links. This episode featured, in order of appearance, David Ault as the historian and Winston Churchill, Jenna Rose as Schultz, Addison Peacock as Ariadne, Elizabeth Plant as Maria, Blythe Renay as Colette, Taqi Nazeer as Eisen, Josh Rubino as Telesphore, Newton Schottlekotte as Mandel, Pandora Beatrix as Roxana, Bradley Gareth as Holzmann, Zane Schact as Sir Edward Grey, Jake Parr as C, and Aaron Moy as Harlow, with additional voices by Meg Molloy Tuten, Austin Lee Matthews, and Henry Galley. If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/KingmakerCast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.